Welcome to Built for This, the podcast where property meets purpose. I'm Talia Hugh.
And I'm Megan Rovers. Together we're here to unpack the real stories behind the people shaping the property industry. From bold first steps to career-defining moments and the life lessons they've built along the way.
If you're passionate about property, curious about the human side of success, or just looking to build something meaningful, you're in the right place.
So let's unpack it. Welcome to Built for This. Today on Built for This, we're chatting with Georgie Rankin, AFLW player for the Geelong Cats, proud member of a strong Geelong football dynasty, and someone who brings the same energy and professionalism to her work off the field as she does on game day. Georgie grew up with property in the background, with her parents running a real estate agency and developing properties, and her brother now in off-the-plan sales on the Gold Coast. Her own career in the space has been as operations manager at Geelong Property Hub, where she's known as the go-to for processes and keeping everything running smoothly. She's now balancing that role part-time with the demands of elite football after taking a short break to focus on the game. In this episode, we'll explore the crossover between sport and property, from teamwork to handling pressure, the lessons learned from her family's approach to opportunity, and what it takes to juggle two different but equally demanding worlds. Welcome, Georgie.
Ooh. Welcome, G. What an intro.
That is, you've given me way too much credit there.
Let's start off your sporting journey. Take us back. Where did it all begin?
Well, I think as you've touched on, there is a strong family tie, to the Geelong Football Club specifically, but to footy. So I have great-great-grandfather and great-great-uncles that all played. Cliff was part of a premiership as the captain coach. So there's a long line there, but obviously for females, footy wasn't an option when I was little. So grew up playing all different sports under the sun, and basketball was predominantly what I did. Obviously the AFLW started in 2017, and even at that point in time, I remember Dad putting it up on the TV showing me, and I thought, oh, sick, this is pretty cool. But I even then probably didn't dive completely into it. Was still mad Cats supporter and would watch the boys. But probably as it progressed and started to grow in 2018, so the year after, Dad came to me and he said, we're keen to put together a women's side at our local club up on the coast. And at that point in time, I was studying at Griffith University, doing a Bachelor of Sport Development, which I haven't used yet, but that was sitting in the background. And we needed just some support to get it up and running. So a sponsorship or a partnership, I should say, with Griffith is where we started the first women's side there. So I played alongside my basketball. I think it was 7 games under my belt, and was fortunate to get an opportunity to have a run around with the Geelong Cats VFLW just for a training run. And basically from there, they at the time had a rookie system. And so you had to have been playing for less than a year, I think it was, and you had to have 2 on every list. So I was really fortunate through probably our tie here in Geelong. Dad had taught the current coach, and they'd sort of reconnected one day, which is where I first got a bit of the opportunity to come down and have a run with the VFLW. And from there it progressed to asking me if that was something I'd be interested in joining the AFLW side. And I think there was probably 4 of us in the mix for the 2 rookie spots, and I was very fortunate to get one of those spots back in the 2019, which was the first season for the Geelong Cats AFLW side.
What's it like today playing as an AFLW player versus when you first started? Like, it's how many seasons are you in now, and how's it different? How's the club atmosphere different? How's the league different from your perspective?
It's developed massively. So I'm going into my 8th season. So altogether, it's actually the 10th year or 10th season, because we had 2 in 1 year for the AFLW competition. And the standard has grown year on year. We're now at a point in time where the lingo that we even speak with, sometimes it actually drives my dad up the wall, because he's like, just speak in normal terms. But we've actually caught on to having a greater education on the game, knowing the ins and outs, and being able to talk to that. And even I hear some of the female commentators or analysts that it's really awesome to see how they've grown in that space and are representing the game really strong. But as simple as things like, our fundamental skills within the game to be able to play at a faster pace or something that's a bit more exciting of a brand to be able to watch compared to probably where it started. And then when I think of us as a program, as a club, we've gotten to a really individualized approach, and the professional standards are there, and the crossover between the men's and women's programs is so much more fluent now. So, you know, we roll in on a morning and hit the track first, cross over as the men come out, we head into the gym. You might catch them in the lunchroom and then they roll into their gym, and it just creates really natural conversations and a real sense of belonging. Whereas I think in the beginning you did feel like you were stepping into the male space. But now everyone is so on the same level pretty much that when you walk around the building and just as interested in each other's success and failures.
Amazing. And I think as well, like with Geelong, from an outsider's perspective, they do seem like a very, I guess, family sort of club, include everyone. And so, yeah, that's really good to hear that you've got to that stage. In terms of your, I guess, timetable, essentially, from the beginning to where you are now with Geelong Cats, how has that evolved in terms of the time that you spend at the club? I know there was a period there where it was quite part-time, would you say? And how does that look now? Yeah,
absolutely. That has definitely developed. One of the girls in the team actually had a conversation. She loves cars and that whole space, which is not an area I'm interested in. And she was looking to see if there was some sort of partnership with a particular company that she could go and just spend some hours there, kind of interning. I don't know what you'd sort of call it. And they sort of asked her, oh, yeah, so your availability, is it just like you just train a couple nights a week for a couple of hours? And, you know, and yeah, that's where we started. But we're now in there 3 full days a week pretty much. You then have on your off days, the expectation really is that you're in there for half a day doing recovery, looking at edits, finding in your own time ways to better yourself. So it's definitely something that has progressed to a point where, are we full-time athletes yet? I'm not quite sure, but for us to get there, it's sort of a time to make those sacrifices to treat yourself as that full-time athlete because of how it's progressed. So we used to only have 2 sessions a week and they were in the evenings. They'd go for about 6 or 7 hours. You'd be walking out of the club at 11 p.m. at night. But now it is full day sessions, and then the expectations around that have just gotten higher if you want to keep progressing within the AFLW space. So it does make it hard to manage 2 occupations. But we also know that it's really important, and something that's probably been instilled in us from when the league first started, how healthy that is and how beneficial it is for our own growth, and probably something that they would have liked to have more prominent in the men's space, because the transition out just can be so difficult.
With footy, so I guess in the roots of your family, and as we introed you, so is property. So I just want to unpack that a little bit with you. So you're living on the Gold Coast, you moved to Geelong. What was life like on the Gold Coast in a property sense for you? Did you have much involvement? Your family had a real estate agency at the time. What did life growing up look like with property around you?
It was, do you know what? If I'm being completely honest, it was definitely a topic of conversation that was always at the dinner table, particularly from Dad, who obviously was heavily involved. I actually was chatting to him the other day, and he and Mum did a lot when we were originally living, or they were in Geelong. I was probably not born at this stage, of renovating homes or flipping homes and going on to the next one. And then we had a period of time on the coast where we did quite a bit of renting, and Dad got into the developer space, then had Armstrong Gold Coast at the time. So it was always a topic of conversation, but I would say quite naive and oblivious to it all, probably until the age where I was looking to move down, and then it became, where am I going to live? And probably moments that I hadn't realised I was learning along the way in subconsciously, just hearing conversations. I felt like I was well equipped to look at, all right, well, this is sort of what I would want to look like from a saving perspective as I am starting footy, and what the salary was then, looking for a job outside. It definitely just equipped me to know that it doesn't just happen overnight. Make sure I'm looking in the right areas, make sure that I'm setting myself up for some sort of timeline, that when it came to a certain point, I pretty much said, I want to be ready to start my own property journey and buy. And I think it would have been 2020, was that the first year of COVID? No, 2021.
Yeah,
2020.
Yep.
And I bought a house and land package, and that's sort of where I would say it really started, and I probably was a bit more switched on in listening to the ins and outs. And that also coincided with me coming into Armstrong Real Estate, which is what it was at the time before Geelong Property Hub.
Talk to us about the house and land package process. How was that? From an outsider point of view, sometimes it's an overwhelming process. So having a little bit of, I guess, the lingo, as you've alluded to, in the family, what was that like building your first house?
Yeah, it was a long process. I would say, so I think it took nearly 3 years for the land to title. For where I was looking, COVID obviously played a part in that. And then I was very fortunate to have incredible advisors around me for what sort of colours I should look at, obviously involved in, looking at a resale, like what do I need to do to make it put its best foot forward. And it is a little block and a little house, so just what are the little upgrades I can do so that when that time comes, it does resell at a really good price. But I would say that I felt really supported, outside along the whole journey. And as soon as it hits site, that process then goes really quickly. So, once I had a slab and everything started moving, I was really grateful that I sort of had a rough idea of when that would come. I think there's probably an element for my first time going through the process where maybe the communication from the building company that I was working with could have used a little bit more insight. I was probably chasing them up a little bit, and in the early stages, because I wasn't aware, I wasn't chasing anything up. So that was
don't
also...
know what you don't know.
Don't know what I don't know. So I didn't realise that as much as mum and dad were poking me, I thought, oh no, but they know the timeline. So I'll just wait to get told. And that's probably where prior to, the slab going down, everything, things were slowing up and the process was pushing out. So one thing I would definitely learn is I would be on top of it next time from the get-go so that I knew what I was chasing, what they were missing from me. There was probably parts that they'd then say, oh, you haven't sent this back in. I thought, that would have been nice to know probably 6 weeks ago. We could have got a bit of a wriggle on. But it is exciting that it's mine. I love the house. I had to adjust to the location. I moved from Barwon Heads into Charlemont, but now it's super convenient and beneficial for my lifestyle.
Love that. And let's talk about you. You said you started at Armstrong Real Estate. What was the first role there? And then talk to us about, I guess, your working in property. What's that look like for you?
Yeah, I started off, I think I walked into an interview with you and Josh McDonald, and I think I remember saying, I promise I will buy a new wardrobe, because I think I was in a Billabong skirt and which, to be honest, my wardrobe didn't go far from that.
Straight from the Gold Coast.
Honestly. But I started on reception there, which honestly I just think is such a great spot to start. I don't know, it probably does carry across all industries. You get a taste of everything and your base level knowledge is just, it's so beneficial, especially when you don't know where you want to go with it. If you want to specialize in a certain area, you start to see the little 1%ers and the nitty gritties of what's involved. So I started with that, and basically I was with how small the team was, helping out the sales agents at the time. So had a little bit more of a touch in the sales side of things, established homes. Then I moved into, I was assisting our land sales agents, so more specifically the land process. I think from there it started spreading a bit across the operations, because I was able to dabble in a bit of the land process, the sales process, touching here on property management. That's probably where I started to learn a bit more about what was involved there. And Megan had this great idea of setting up a brand new process for all of our, a brand new system for all of our processes. So I sort of grabbed hold of that under Megan's guidance, and then that really spread to I guess, an operations support position. And then with her grand idea, she spread the business to then become the Geelong Property Hub and have a number of branches within the building. So it just broadened my knowledge even more of the conveyancing process, bringing finance in. There was build at the time, house and land packages, and I was able to, again, broaden my knowledge more, and probably being a little bit older, loving the business that I was a part of, my interest in property, I would say, would have taken off more predominantly in the last, 7 years since I stepped into those four walls. So that's where sort of the growth came, and I also felt very fortunate that under your guidance I was brought into understanding a little bit more around business, and therefore that grew my knowledge of budgets and why we need to look at certain areas more closely, and how that affects how much we're selling or leasing. Or so then there was this love for business that I probably never would have anticipated having as a part of my life as well. So it's opened up probably two different career paths that, whether it is in property one day once I finish my footy career, or I see how transferable it is in the football world. So it's just been so beneficial to my career development.
And how have you handled that in terms of going from, day-to-day operations? We quite often say a lot of people do fall into real estate, which both of us attest to that. So in terms of your growth within the business, you have become quite, with operations, it's very, reactive in a way that people are always coming to you like, gee, this isn't working, or gee, can you please fix this for me? Or, really get an understanding. Like, how do you, between footy and work, really, go between the two in terms of being able to switch off, things like that?
Yeah, I definitely think I've had to learn how to do that over the time. So I probably, when I started, I was young and I came down here for footy, and so that was probably, if I be blunt with it, was a lot easier at the time, because I probably saw my job as just my job, and then football was my career. As I grew to love the process, love the business, love property, love the people I was working with, that passion and the time and energy I was giving to it, that really grew to the point where I think you touched on in the intro that I did. Last year I took a moment to step away from it because my balance was out. I loved the business so much, and I was giving everything I could to it because of what I could see in my future. And then I was trying to manage that with what I could see in my football future. And unfortunately at that point in time, it probably was shaking what my football future looked like. And that's only here for such a short amount of time. You can be in the game and out of the game just like that. So I probably found, from both professional standpoint and probably just a personal, even mental health standpoint, I thought I need to find some time. My social battery was so low, and I often found that I didn't have the time for my friends or my family outside of work or footy. If you were lucky to be in my life at those points in time, I was giving you absolutely everything that I had, and then unfortunately any hour outside of that I was cocooning. I was just keeping to myself, and I was quite exhausted. It was probably the most I learnt about myself, about filling your own cup up, because I didn't realise when I keep just pouring it out, there's going to be nothing left for me.
Everyone to everything to
everything to everyone. Yeah. And that was, I'm so grateful that whilst I had this, or am continuing to have, because it hasn't, I've come full circle and I'm back again, but this incredible journey, it was a great learning lesson for me, because I wasn't balancing it all as well as I could be. And now I put that time into footy, and I've probably come back again and going, but the importance of having balance, when I look the other way in your life, of having more than one interest. I fell heavy into footy, and that can also then chew up your energy in a different way. Of any time, yes, I was socialising, but if footy was going well, everything was great, and if it wasn't, then things were not so bright. And last year was a bit of an up and down year for my footy personally, in and out of the team. And I found then all right, this is a different type of imbalance. So chatting with Megan, when was it? Probably a couple months ago now, I was looking to find something that I loved, that I was passionate about, that, mentally gave me a spark and got the cogs turning again, that I was having to think and complete tasks, but where I could balance it in a healthy way, that maybe my what was expected of me was at a slightly different level. So I've loved slotting back into the team, being able to provide that operations support. But I think that my maturity and my growth has taught me that now comes at a level with boundaries and with managing that balance between the two.
You've just touched on something that I think in the mini episodes we touched on a little bit, and it's probably something that I can, really relate to at the moment of like, I love going to work, but I also love being at home, and it's like hard to choose. And then as Tal said, you can't be everything to everyone. So they're two different things completely, football and property to a certain degree, but you want to be in both spots and give 100% all the time. But then where's the rest? Where's the room for everything else? You touched on Team G. I want to hear from you what it's like being a part of those two teams. So you've got sales agents, property managers, high performers in their, field, and then you're the expert, you're the high performer at the football club in a team as well. What's that like? Is it completely worlds apart? Are the teams, are there similarities? Is there always one, class clown? Talk to me about that.
So many similarities. It's unbelievable. You've obviously got rock stars maybe of the teams that like to be out the front or kicking the goals or making the most sales, and then you've got the role players who, I would say I'm a role player, so I probably have a soft side for those ones who like to make life easier for everyone else, just play their role, get the job done, and just are reliable in that space. And then you've got those behind the scenes who they're doing all the grunt work as well. I think the similarities in just the different dynamics that are so prevalent in not just the fact that these two particular industries, but I think the size of the groups, once it starts to grow and become bigger, it's so important to have different personalities and different people with strengths in different areas. And I often reflect on that when I think of, say, a leadership group or a leadership team, the importance of having different strengths amongst your leaders, but it actually flows directly into your core team as well. I personally have a really strong interest in like an emotional intelligence or social intelligence within people, and therefore understanding how they tick, why they react certain ways, how I can say something to actually maybe tap into a different part of them. And that's something that within my role across, I have a role in the team, I guess, but across both, it's been just super fascinating, and I think has been another part of where I'm growing, because I have to be able to adapt in both of my environments because of all the different personnel that you have. In some spaces, you may sit in a slightly different point of the chain. You might be having those below you that you're trying to support them in coming into a new environment, learning how to go through the selection process, or someone new coming into the business that you're learning the basics of what's the start of the process of selling a home. What do I do when I'm sitting on reception and someone walks in, they're a buyer. So I love the education and the teaching from that point, but then I'm probably like a sponge, and when there's people who have more knowledge than me or a level above me, how can I tap into them, learn from them, and gain a mutual respect both ways? So it overlaps so much just from the diverse group of people that you're interacting with.
And on that as well, like in terms of personal development, what would you say, AFLW, does that teach you a lot about your own personal development and things like that? Is that where you've got a lot of it from, or do you have to sort of seek your own mentors to learn from, and I guess in those steps? Yeah,
I definitely would say you're very fortunate if you step into probably any elite sport environment, because there will be connections out there for you. We have what's called a player development manager who take care of us from a holistic point of view. So yes, there's your on-field, but they are a really strong mentor and supporter for you in your off field, and through them they can really set up a lot of connections if you have an interest in a certain area or you're wanting to grow in a certain space. Where I'd say I'm fortunate is I feel like I've naturally had those people in my life growing up. Probably a credit to Dad. He had a lot of connections through his journey. Not to make you get embarrassed, but Megan would absolutely be one of my greatest mentors that I've had. It's weird because so not only is it having a strong mentor, but there's probably moments where it's like having a sister as well, if I need to hear a thing or two. But there's Megan, there's Josh, who you've had on the podcast as well. My dad, I've just connected with someone outside of the footy world, but he's developed me. Let's try that again. He is developing my confidence and my on-field learning, as well as his approach to his business is the holistic approach. So making sure off-field that's all going smoothly and complementing me. So his name is Brad Jenkinson, and he's a great mentor for me at the moment. So I'm very fortunate to be crossing paths with all these people, some organically and some through the benefits of playing AFLW.
Gee, I just wanted to dive into something you said before about your role in both your teams. It is very much you're doing the teamwork. You're the player that in both teams that is helping everyone be the best they possibly can. How do you set boundaries for yourself? And as a manager, I sometimes am very conscious that potentially that type of player or that type of team person doesn't get the attention or the credit they deserve because they kind of fly under the radar. How have you dealt with that? So 2 questions in one there. How do you set boundaries for yourself with that? But how do you get the attention of your coach or your manager to make sure, or how do you know you're doing a good job?
I would say that it's come from probably falling into that deep end of not getting it right, getting it quite wrong, and when I was saying yes to everything and everyone, pardon me. So feeling what that felt like was where I did go and talk to people about how do I fill my cup up? What does that look like? And those boundaries of, do you know what, at this point in time, for example, I actually didn't play very well on the weekend. So this week, and I've come to learn that this is okay. So every now and then you look around, you break up, say, out on the track into 4 groups, and you can sort of see the ones that I could go in that group and bring them up to a certain level and put my energy into them. And I've learned that every now and then it's actually okay to maybe go and be in a group alongside the ones who they're going to bring you to their level. It's a bit of a feel good, so they might be some of the more experienced players. And right now at that point in time, I might need that to get me playing at my best, or I might need to sit amongst a table of people who they're also flying and they're achieving great success, so I can bounce off their energy. And sometimes it's important when I'm feeling that way or you know, sitting quite comfortably, that I'm then the person to jump into. You know, I've got some teammates who have lent on me in the past around their confidence being shaky. So I'll make sure that I get around them, that I try and find them in drills, get the footy in their hands as much as possible. You know, I'm complimenting them so that other people are hearing and they're recognising, oh, that was a really small moment for that person, but they did that really well. So I think understanding the balance of both, but that it's okay for me to source what I need for the benefit of myself sometimes, is something that I probably saw that as being selfish in the past, but I don't think it is. I think it's just about getting the balance right. And if I want to keep growing, in order for me to be able to help those players, then I do need to be at my best. So sometimes it's a bit of give and take in that space. You had a second part to that question, which I did want to touch on. It was a big
question, but it was very much about the boundaries and what you've mentioned there about you being able to get the attention of a manager or a coach.
That was it. The second part, which I did really want to touch on, because I found this from last year, that I was really relying on getting that from particularly my coach, of, I guess, seeking their approval. It's they were dictating whether I was doing a good job or not. And I was speaking to my sports psych at the time, and they were incredible in in I guess as much as there will always be a respect, and you need to take on what your coach or your manager are telling you, because at the end of the day they need you to get the job done, and they're the ones that have picked you on their team or they're paying you. I came to learn that if I'm putting all of my power in them dictating how I'm going, then I'm losing that. I'm losing that power. I'm losing that independence, and I like to think that I'm a very self-aware person. So I'm then losing all control over that, and it's all dictated by what they think of me. Once I decided to, you got to take on board what they're saying. It's all about finding balance, and I found that balance of going, all right, I need to hear the messaging of what you're asking from me, but if you don't necessarily see certain parts of what I'm doing, but I had incredible feedback from, whether it's my colleague saying, thank you so much, that was a massive help, or my teammates saying, hey, it was so great to have you out there, you made my life so much easier in all these spaces, and just a independence in myself of going, oh, that was pretty good. You can get that power back, and I don't need someone else to tell me if I'm doing a good job, because my self-awareness as a strength in me will let me know.
I really love that, because we always quite often talk about, especially in real estate, celebrating the small wins, because much like yourself, like, you know, you mentioned that you felt that you had a bad game. If I'm having a bad month, I'm not listing or selling, all of my happiness is based on that. So it's really important, and amazing credit to you in terms of being able to understand that it's just natural. That's just what's going to happen. And I guess, are there any tips that you would have on that in terms of, I guess, looking for those smaller wins or setting it apart and not letting that, I guess, dictate how you are as a person? I don't know if that kind of makes sense, what I'm sort of saying, but...
Yeah, absolutely. I'm probably, it depends on the type of person that you are. I'm quite methodical. So, you know, I am someone who will set little goals or some focus areas. So that's been really strong for me, but I'll make them, they will be simple. They will be achievable. They'll be something that I guess I probably would want someone to look at me as part of my DNA. So it may not be that I'm hitting record number of disposals or a record number of sales, but it's like what would I want my vendors to say about me? And even if you're not getting that end result, there'll be these, your DNA, what makes you you. We talk about like your anchors. So that's a new sort of, I guess, the lingo that we've rolled in, thanks to Nigel Lappin, and we come back to our anchors. So, you know, for example, I just want to compete for longer than my opponent. Now that's not necessarily going to get me, I don't know, great recognition or all the results or see me have a standout game, but that's something that if someone then looks at me, they think, oh, you know, Georgie's reliable. She's just going to compete all day and longer than her opponent, and we trust that she's going to do that. So it's small and it's simple and it's achievable, but it just narrows my focus and makes me feel like when I do that, all right, great, I'm playing my role. Yeah.
Georgie, you've won, and correct me if I'm wrong, twice the community award for the AFL Women's at Geelong. What does that mean for you, and what do you think, I guess, are the skills or the qualities? And you've mentioned about just giving, and that just seems like a role that is just another thing on top of all this you're already doing. Talk to me about that.
I love the community space. I think, again, when you talk about, you know, you asked before around having these connections or mentors of different people. If you look from one space, it's an opportunity to put yourself out there again and make connections and meet people in whether it's schools, you know, you go to community clubs. There's even whether it's partnerships with someone in a more corporate position. So that all falls under, I guess, the community banner of going out and it's about representing the club, representing our league. So there's that side of things that I love meeting new people and I love creating those connections. But then I come back to when you're young and you go through sport and you don't really register when everyone says thank them for all the time that they've put in, you know, tirelessly, and particularly through those young age groups, so much of it is just out of their own time and their own love and care. They're not getting paid. So I'm not going to be naive. Obviously, I am getting paid as a player, but I love the ability to give time back to whether it's aspiring young footballers or just kids, teenagers who need a positive experience in their life. So it's not even about, to me, them one day playing footy. It's, well, have I gone and given these people who I'm surrounding myself a really good experience? And Dad said to me, or has said to me for a while now, that hopefully get him on the podcast at some stage, because I'm throwing him in
Love to.
a few times now. But he would say your energy introduces you, and that's something that I hold in a really high regard around when I do interact with someone. Some people you can just cross paths and they make a really positive impact on you, and you never know when you have that opportunity to do that for someone else. So the community space genuinely just provides me so many opportunities to do that.
And I think on that, just like, again, to you, you are one of the most positive people that I've ever met in my life. Like, you just make everyone around you just feel so amazing. So really, you know, just amazing by you. And
Stop,
even
Charles.
if you're not feeling that yourself, like, that's what you perceive. You perceive such a beautiful
Thank
energy.
you.
So you do that really well.
Thank you.
Well, Georgie, let's talk about your personal property goals. What's I guess the plan? You've got your first house. You've been in there for a few years now. What's next? Not that we're going to try and sell you something here and there, but we've gone over it. It's in your DNA. Your parents, they don't sit still for very long. I feel like they've had probably 3 or 4 home addresses in the last 3 to 4 years.
Absolutely.
So I assume there's going to be something else coming up soon for you. What does that look like? And does it excite you like it excites me?
I've never met someone who's more excited by property than you, Megan. I genuinely don't think so. I am probably at the next stage of looking at what's next. So having been in the house for a couple of years, my partner at Aishi also owns her own home, and we are deciding whether we are going to move in maybe together and have a house then that we lease out and you know, start getting some rent income there.
Property moguls.
Yeah, maybe. Or does it look like selling one and maybe finding something that they're both, as I said, first homes? So do we want something bigger? They're both also in the same area, so I think it will take me a little while, but I'd love to get back down to maybe not Barwon Heads. That's definitely out of my budget.
Is coastal where you're wanting?
Coastal,
Yes.
absolutely. So I lived in Ocean Grove for 2 to 3 years, so even somewhere around there, that will be a bit of a process. But I'm probably seeking some mentorship again of understanding what's next. But it's definitely looking like maybe our property journeys will now come together, and we'll look at starting a rental portfolio, I think, on the side of having our own home. Ideally, that's where we're looking at.
You're not going to run away back to the Gold Coast on me, are you?
No, well, right now, Mum and Dad are caravanning around the place while they're waiting to build. So that's them on their next step. So I'm sort of like, where am I going to
Spot
go
for me.
if I head up there?
And surely, you said that I'm the most passionate person about property. Surely your dad, like up
True.
and about everything, like a new plan, anything. Like in saying you've said get him on the podcast, John, if you're listening, yeah, you're next.
He will be listening because he asked
be
me on the
listening.
way here, what time's the podcast?
He probably thinks we're going live. Loves property, so hopefully we can get him on. Let's wrap up this episode, G, with some rapid fire questions. We had one which was going to be, I think it was beach or country or something, but Tul's just made you answer like you love the coast, yeah?
Yeah, absolutely.
So we've got a couple. I'm going to have to make up a couple really quickly though.
Okay.
So first one, Guzman's or Sombreros?
I've just jumped back on the Guzman's train.
Is it the drive-through? Is that what helps?
The drive-through, the chicken too. It's actual chicken, whereas I still love Zambies. It's like shredded and it's all kind of like mushed.
What's your order? Can I ask that?
Yeah, burrito. Is it a burrito bowl?
Oh, yes.
Yeah, chicken, mild, because I can't go too spicy. I don't even know the other parts to it, but yeah, Guzman's.
Love. Favourite holiday destination?
Is it lame for me to say the coast? It's just
No.
so nice. Get back to the Gold Coast, home. It's warm. Let's go with that.
Drink of choice, if you had the, and we'll go non-alcoholic.
Obviously, I'm an athlete. Drink of choice.
I was just going to say water.
Water.
Did you see it cross
Gatorade.
over my? It went through my head. Honestly, kombucha.
Ooh.
I'm on the kombucha train hard at the moment. Yeah, loving it.
Do you have your own thing that you grow it? Is that what happens? What is it called? Oh no, is that sourdough, a SCOBY?
Do you drink
Scooby?
matcha?
No, I've never tried it. Is it good? Everyone seems to add syrup, so I'm like, it can't be that good.
Yeah, no, I love the strawberry. Like,
Yeah.
give me the sugary one.
Yeah.
But I feel like you drink coffee though, don't you?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Might
Get on board.
matcha.
Give it
Yeah.
a go. All right, I'll.
I think it's very Gold Coast.
It is. You're very right. Some of the girls at the moment are getting on the, what is it? You know how they do like a taste, they're all doing taste testing. I think it's called something cooler than that, but they'll have the camera up and this matcha is from wherever they are and they do it for the TikTok.
You've nailed that. You're probably going to get that sponsored now. Someone's going to send you some free matcha to do yourself. Hey, Georgie, thanks so much for joining us. Years beyond, like wise years and years beyond your actual age.
Wise
which I'm
beyond
just
your
really
years.
You're not even 30, are you?
No, I'm not 30
No.
yet.
Thank you so much. It's been awesome unpacking your property and football journey with you. Thanks for coming on today.
You are the best.
Thanks for having me, girls. I've loved it.
We love you.